Hi everybody, Rabbanit Bracha here, Parashat Chukat-Balak. Saying hi to everybody, wishing everybody a lovely Shabbat. I have a question that I'd like to bring to this group. It says in the beginning of Parashat Chukat, Zot Chukat Hatorah. This is the Chukah, the fundamental law of the Torah, Asher Tzivah Hashem, that God commanded. And what is it? It is the law of the Para Aduma. For those who are not familiar, it is the red heifer which is burnt, and the ashes are ground up and put into a concoction, not something we do nowadays, which would move a person out of spiritual ritual impurity called tum'ah, tum'at met. When that person had connection, was in the same physical contact or physical area with a dead body, there was a spiritual tum'ah, impurity, and in order to be allowed to join everybody and to eat from certain foods that had kedusha, it was necessary for the kohen, for the priest, to sprinkle these ashes during a 7-day isolation period, on the 3rd day and the 7th day. This is the para aduma. This is something that we are not given a reason for, that why would this do it, but the person who has the ritual impurity must go through it. But there is another place. In a few weeks, we'll be reading in 2 weeks, another place in Torah which says the exact same words. Vayomer Elazar Kohen, this is in Parashat Matot. The Elazar, the priest, said El Anshei Tzava, talking to people going out to war, Habaim la milchama, Zot Chukat Torah. Same thing. This is the fundamental law of the Torah, Shetzivah Hashem et Moshe. And what is this fundamental law? The fundamental law is how to do hag'alat kelim, how to take the vessels that they take as spoils, as booty in the war from non-Jews, how to make them kosher. Now, the Torah doesn't use the word kosher. The Torah uses the word tahor and tameh, the same word of impurity. And we understand that we need that because these vessels had unkosher food. So we learn a fundamental principle called kibol'o kach polto. The same way that it absorbs the unkosher taste, that's the way we expel it. And that's what people know from before Pesach, when we might kosher things, or if something becomes non-kosher, if we make a mistake in our own kitchens. So for example, a pot which has boiling water, which would absorb the taste. So we dip it into boiling water, we boil water in it in order to expel the taste. That's an example of what we do. So what is the connection between these two? Why are these two called Zot Chukat HaTorah? These are the fundamental laws of the Torah. Well, so first of all, on a very simple contextual level and context and text level, we understand that one is to move a person out of a state of tum'ah, of impurity, and be allowed to be lahachshir, to make them kosher, for example, to join everyone and to eat from tahara, from foods that have kedusha associated, holiness associated with them. And the laws of koshering kelim, of koshering vessels, allow the vessels to be used in our places, in our homes, in our kitchens. So there is something fundamentally connected, but it still doesn't explain why is this called, this is the fundamental law of the Torah. Rav Moshe Feinstein explains this way. He explains that the Torah uses the same language in order to equate the two of them. While koshering vessels makes a lot of sense, there's a reason for it. If we want to be able to use it, to use these vessels, we either have to put them in the mikveh because they came from a non-Jew and there's some uncleanliness associated, or some reason that we need to make it part of the Jewish world, or they literally had non-kosher food. So there's a reason for it. It makes more sense to us. But the para aduma does not make sense. Does not have a reason given. Why use the ashes? Why, if you make a concoction and you sprinkle it? But it's something that we do because God commanded us to do it. So Rav Moshe Feinstein explains that the reason they're equated is that we need to follow rules that feel like they make sense and have a logical basis and have a reason perhaps given, the same way we follow those that don't. Rav Shamsham Raphael Hirsch adds another layer in my mind. He says, I want to quote him, "It makes sense. Without the means of restoring the kashrut, the kosher status of our vessels, and the tahara, the purity of our persons, from the unavoidable being touched or being near a dead body, the Torah would not be achievable. So the reason it's called Chukat-Torah, this is the fundamental basis of the Torah, is because without it, we wouldn't be able to lead what we call a Torah life. But then he says something more. He says that Tahara, purity, that fundamental thought of personal moral freedom of will, which is in fact conditional for the keeping of the whole Torah. And in my mind, this is what it means. He's reminding us that there is a leap of faith. We have a choice. Do we buy in to what the Torah tells us? Do we buy into this whole concept of spiritual purity and impurity, kosher, non-kosher? It is a leap of faith, and we need a way to uphold it. And that's what the Chukat Torah means to me. The fundamental basis of Torah and keeping Torah is the leap of faith that we believe in God and we believe in what God told us in the Torah. May this be a Shabbat when we ponder about that a little bit. Where do we bump up against it? What makes sense to us? What doesn't? And maybe we can have certain moments of clarity when we just feel that pure faith and belief in God and in what God commanded us. Shabbat Shalom.